What's up, everybody, and welcome to the latest post-game edition of the Chicago Football Show. I am Scott Bair alongside Nicholas Moreano. I swear I did not lose my voice while screaming during the Bears' victory. We are impartial observers, but there was a lot of positives that we saw coming from a 24-20 victory over the New York Giants. Yet another fourth quarter comeback, more heroics from quarterback Caleb Williams, and really from the entire team. Nick, this was another one where when it mattered most, the Bears showed up. And it's funny because we've been saying they're learning how to win. I think they've learned how to win.
They're showing it. There's a proven process with how these games have gone. And then fourth quarter, your quarterback is making plays there, Scott. So I think when you look at it, yes, it wasn't pretty. It came down to the very end. But ultimately, this team is 6-3.
6-3.
6-3, and you're going now to division play. So you can't fault how they've done it. They are getting things done, though.
Yeah, and I think that that's been really impressive. And as we always do, Nick and I are going to break down the three keys to this game and then head forward after the break and really kind of play it ahead to an upcoming important NFC North matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. But let's start with the fourth quarter. You mentioned it. For 3.5 quarters, wasn't great sterling football. Tons of receiver drops, some missed opportunities on defense, allowing Jackson Dart to kind of leak into the second level as a runner, and yet something clicks. Now, the Giants are a terrible fourth quarter defense, but I think this was less about them and more about Chicago.
You know, you still got to take advantage when those teams like the New York Giants are giving you those opportunities. That's what the Bears did. And, you know, Caleb Williams, I think his ability to just be calm in those moments, that's what he's always talked about. And you do see it on the football field where even though they are down, the time is ticking, Caleb Williams is still processing, still making plays, whether it's with his arm or with his legs. And I think that's what you're starting to see throughout the course of his second year right now in Ben Johnson's system.
Yeah, and when you look at some of the other fourth quarter comebacks, that the blocked field goal, good execution, but that's a crazy low percentage play. And my point in saying that, and against Washington, right, they find a way to drive down and get that game-winning field goal. But when you're down 10 points, and then against Cincinnati, they blow a late fourth quarter lead, and then find their way back. This time, they're down, and it wasn't a splash play that made this happen. This was a methodic execution late in the game. And they talk so much about Caleb Williams uses the term living in the know, K-N-O-W, that they believe that they're going to win. It felt that way late. As the game wore on, even in my mind, I felt confident that they would be able to execute in those moments. Is that what's in your head too? Have they started to convince you that they don't need a pick six or something super dramatic? They just need to execute over the last 5 minutes to overcome their opponent. That seems to be what they're doing.
Yes, it feels like if this offense gets the ball with time, there is an opportunity for them to go back and make something happen. Like, I'm getting that same exact feeling next to you, Scott. We sit right next to each other in the press box. And if there's time on the clock, Caleb Williams has the football. He's been making things happen. This offense really has. Like, guys have had to obviously step up and make these plays happen downfield. But, yeah, like you, and I think like Bears fans, they are starting to believe that they can come back, especially if there's time on the clock.
Which is absolutely wild.
It is.
Considering the history and how much as I've gotten to know this fan base as I've covered it for the last 2 years. You've been covering this team longer. It feels like the fan base, the optimism is always guarded. And it feels like a little bit they're seem to be a little more open to what's happening here and less guarded. Why do you think that is? Like, what is the evidence that you see, having covered this team for a long time, the evidence that you see that there is something different happening here?
Well, we keep saying, like, this team would have lost this game had it been last year, right? And we keep saying that. I mean, as long as we keep on saying that, there's now proof that this Bears team is learning to overcome adversity. I think that was the biggest thing. Anytime an adverse situation would happen throughout the course of a game, as a Bears fan, you're most likely like, well, that's probably it.
Here we go again.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
But it's here we go again, but let's find a way to overcome it and still end up persevering through that situation. I think that's what's different because it's consistently happening. It's not always going to maybe be that way, but you're just starting to see more proof of it that it can happen.
I mean, it's wild. They've won 6 of their last 7. I mean, that's a legitimate run. Ben Johnson talked about wanting to go 3-1 in the second quarter, as in the 4 games after the first 4, so 5 through 8, and then they did that, and then they start off well here. And if you go back to Paycor Stadium last week, the defensive players weren't real thrilled. They're not going to apologize for the win, but they weren't happy that they didn't close out the game the way that they wanted to. In this game, in the fourth quarter, stop at the end of the game, huge plays, big moments for this defense that I think was really impressive. When I was talking to defensive players, it really felt that way. What did it feel like to you from the defenders that you talked to about kind of their energy and how they performed late in this game?
It was kind of like a redemption moment for this unit, right? Being able to, when the game's on the line, that they can actually close it themselves, what you just alluded to. And just hearing from certain guys like Jaquan Brisker, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, those type of guys, it's their ability to make plays, especially like C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
What a day.
I mean, being able to come off the edge, sack Jackson Dart, also create the forced fumble. Like, this is a guy that you picked up middle of the season, instant playmaker, a day one starter for a very key spot in Dennis Allen's defense. But there's just, I think, a little bit more belief from what happened last week, and you're starting to sense that, obviously, with the play on the field today.
Yeah, I think it would be fun if we would like go live during the game on like a Twitter space or something, because like some of these conversations that we have as we see the game unfold, you know, it's kind of funny, interesting. But I think one note that both of us registered is that having C.J. Gardner-Johnson there allows something for Dennis Allen to do, that he can kind of stick to the Kyler Gordon plan. That's something that you brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you lose a guy like Kyler Gordon, that's a big loss to a defense. Huge loss. And with Dennis Allen, he talked up Kyler Gordon all throughout the summer, what you can do with a guy like that. But because you don't have him and you insert a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, those blitzes off the edge, he feels comfortable, calling those plays,
that's
and for
huge.
C.J. to execute it. So that is big for Dennis Allen, this defense. He likes to simulate pressure. That's one way they're doing it, and it hit home twice today for CJ.
And on the first one, he didn't come from Dart's blind side. He came towards him, but he was behind a defense. He kind of snuck in, so he wasn't super visible. He wasn't off the edge saying, hey, I'm going to blitz. And he zoomed around there and got that. I thought that was a veteran move. He was well positioned, and it's one of those things where those are the big moments where they're starting to come through. Just another thing that I kind of want to hit, he wasn't a major factor in this game. But Austin Booker, since he's been back, 2 plays where he's made a real impact. He played tons of snaps, most of them. But what was your broadcast feed and live video, live in-person take on Austin Booker? Yeah,
no, I think we're starting to see, Austin Booker obviously get more acclimated to getting more of those reps because he really hadn't been in that situation ever in his Bears career. But this is a great opportunity for him to, one, have a couple guys go down, but now he has to not only focus on those pass rushing reps, but he has to set the edge now. I mean, these are it being a more every down player. So I think an encouraging sign for Austin Booker in his first role, really being a starter opposite of Montez Sweat, but he has to continue to show that over the course of the season.
And Montez Sweat had 5.5 sacks in all of 2024. He has 5.5 sacks right now. And there was a situation where I think somebody else got a sack where it was an errant pass where he essentially bull rushed his tackle or tight end into the quarterback. That's why you pay this guy so much money. And I know that the salary, I mean, I'm sure he enjoys the paychecks, but it's always like around his neck as you're continuing to, or around his head as you're continuing to evaluate this guy. It's not, is he good or is he not good? It's, is this $20 million player good?
Yes.
And I think that he's playing like a $20 million player right now.
He is, and he was really the only realistic solution for his Bears pass rush when all the guys went down. He needed to step up. Montez Sweat is doing that, you guys. He's doing that in big ways, getting after the quarterback, creating more consistent pressure. That was always the thing with Montez Sweat. Can he be consistent with it? Over the last couple games, I think you could say that now. He is the guy that an opposing offense needs a game plan for because of recently what the production's showing.
All right, now let's switch to the quarterback. You know, we have to talk about Caleb Williams. And I always hate making bold, crazy statements right after a game because I feel like there's some recency bias.
Yeah.
But you and I have seen every professional snap that Caleb Williams has taken over the course of the last 2 years and hundreds more at practice. To me, this is not his best statistical day. Not even close.
No.
But I would consider this, in my opinion, a top 2, maximum 3 performance that I've seen from Caleb Williams, and it comes from the fact that fans saw he was hobbling around. He took a beating at times, laying forward to get extra rushing yards. I thought he had a really gutsy performance today. It was really, really impressive from my standpoint, just his ability to will this team to win.
Yeah, and look what Caleb Williams did not get sacked in this game. Didn't fall on him. There were no register sacks.
Wild.
Why is that? Because of Caleb Williams' ability to escape pressure. Scott, there were so many times where the Giants had a perfectly executed blitz. Caleb is nowhere to go, but somehow makes something happen. That's his ability, though.
Yeah.
He can do it really at any moment because of how crafty he is when he gets in space. But that falls on Caleb Williams. One, it keeps the chains moving in a positive direction, doesn't put the offense behind, and it allows you to just sustain drives. So that's Caleb Williams just at his best.
And I really think that this is a game where the receivers had at least 6 drops, maybe 7 or 8. More than they've had in the rest of the games combined. The impressive thing to me was that for as much as sometimes you hear some noise and criticism about Caleb Williams, his attitude or his sideline demeanor, his receivers weren't helping him out all the time. I saw no finger pointing. I saw no visible frustration on the sideline. I just saw a guy that continued to grind and work, and because he continued to do that, that's what allows them to persevere in those moments. Look, I know the offensive line helps. The rushing attack did well. We talked about the defense, and I'm always loath about giving the quarterback like too much credit. You know, they're always hero when you win and 0 when you lose.
Exactly, yeah.
But I do think that I really felt him as a tough, hard-nosed quarterback, selfless at times as he was taking hits, unwilling to come out of the game when he was living pretty bad, man. And I came away thinking, wow, Caleb Williams really put on a show today.
Again, he has the ball with time left on the clock. I think you feel pretty good about what he can do in those crucial moments.
Yeah, and we're going to move this thing forward now. Like, that's your full breakdown of what happened. Now it's about what happens next. Nick and I are going to get to all that after the break on the Chicago Football Show. Welcome back to the post-game edition of the Chicago Football Show. I'm Scott, and that's Nick. And it's my favorite segment, to be honest with you. The best thing that we saw and heard in the Bears locker room or at press conferences. We talked to a lot of people. Nick and I never talk to the same person at the same time by rule, so we can cover more ground. And we covered lots of ground today. I think that it was an upbeat locker room. But I feel like there was great perspective that I heard. I know you were talking to Theo Benedict for a long time. What did you take from that one?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Theo Benedict about Caleb Williams, these fourth quarter moments, what he's like, and he, I guess, shared a little nugget. It's see Willie time, apparently,
Okay.
Scott, when those moments are on the line. Calm, cool, collective, and he's more focused on getting everybody else in the position where they can execute their play, as opposed to maybe even himself. Again, that alleviates pressure off the other 10 guys in the huddle. But see Willie time, I guess, is what happens when the fourth quarter, game's on the line, and Caleb Williams needs to go make something happen.
Yeah, to kind of play off of that, Ben Johnson had mentioned that he felt like Caleb Williams was absolutely locked in and focused at the hotel before they came to the game, that he was locked in all day. And Caleb was asked kind of a follow-up question to that, and he said he felt the exact same way. He felt confident in the week of preparation. He said he visualized doing some of the things in the running game that he was able to do, and that he came into this game both confident in his ability to execute, as he always is, but in his ability to execute the game plan. And there are times we can look at our social media timelines, and anytime he makes the smallest mistake, it's magnified because he's the number 1 pick and all these other types of things. But I just think that part of it is really interesting to me, that he is able to lock in early, and he's confident in executing the game plan, knowing the balance between on and off schedule, when to run, when not to run. And Ben Johnson was really excited about what he was able to do. Now, my favorite thing was, of course, from Kevin Byard, who's like the sage veteran, always has the knowledge and the wisdom. And the question was, how do you compartmentalize and not think about 6-3 and the postseason playoffs thing? That's now a realistic possibility.
Yeah.
If they go 4-4, they've won 10 games.
That should do it,
The
Scott.
Bears,
10
right?
games, double digits.
And yes, the schedule gets harder, but 4-4, that's not impossible for this unit. I think that's pretty fair to say. But Kevin Bair just saying the 1-0 each week mentality is that, that this team has a collective understanding and mindset that you don't let it get to you, right? There's been some criticism of this team like over the last couple of years. Don't let that get to you either. I think it got to the 2024 Bears. Now there's going to be a lot of praise. There's going to be a lot of talk on Marquee Sports Network and every other radio station around here about how good the Bears are, how they're finding ways to win, how they're playing fun football. And as well as anyone, when the Bears are winning, the city of Chicago comes alive for their sports in ways that few areas do for a football team. But the ability to not get too high is going to be key as the schedule gets harder. Because, look, they have Minnesota coming up next week. And
remember what happened in week 1, Scott? I mean, they had that game won until that fourth quarter. But obviously a lot has changed since that week 1 loss of Monday Night Football to the Vikings. But it is nice seeing that the Bears are learning from those mistakes, and now we're finishing off games.
Yeah, and so for those who don't know, and you should, log on to MarqueeSportsNetwork.com, and Nick writes a stock watch, a stock up, stock down article at the end of a game, before you've even had a chance to comb through the tape, as both of us will later on this evening and tomorrow morning. But who is a stock up or a stock guy down from that article? Like, what was your initial feel maybe highlighting one player?
Yeah, someone that maybe doesn't get as much praise as he should, but Jonah Jackson is playing some really good football as of late. There were a couple plays, the first touchdown run that the Bears had where Jonah Jackson, one, is going to help out Drew Dahlman on the block, but then gets second level. There was another run where it's a 14-yard run by DeAndre Swift. What's Jonah Jackson doing? Getting second level, creating space, creating rushing lanes. And that was a guy that Ben Johnson was familiar with in his time in Detroit, brings him over here to Chicago now, and he's fitting in really nicely next to Darnell Wright. Obviously to his left is Drew Dahlman, but Jonah Jackson, stock up right now.
Yeah, and I got 2 minutes with him one-on-one and kind of asked, why is this line, especially on the right side, starting to come together and become more active, especially in the run game? And he said it's time and reps. That he's a new guy, Drew is a new guy, Darnell's learning to work with those guys, Theo Bennett, everybody's new except for Darnell Wright, because with Theo Bennett there, offensive line play takes time to get the chemistry and the timing and the fit, and we're starting to see it. This wasn't the first game that we've seen it, but Jonah Jackson was a guy who, I don't know if he fell out of favor with the Rams, but the Rams were willing to trade him. That was fine with them, and I think that you wondered at the start of the season, he wasn't all that great, but over the last couple games, Darnell Wright gets lots of praise.
Yes.
Offensive tackles generally do, and it's deserved. But I'm glad that you highlighted Jonah Jackson, because it's guys like that, when you're creating an advantage for your runner at 2 separate points, then you're really doing your job. It's been very impressive to see overall. Now, the Minnesota Vikings lost earlier on Sunday as the Bears won. As you mentioned, things have changed a little bit in Minnesota since that week 1. J.J. McCarthy had a high ankle sprain, was out for a long time. He had some good moments against the Bears. He's had some ups and downs since he's come back. The Vikings with Brian Flores are always difficult. The inside of that defensive line is tough. And they're playing in Minnesota. Lots of checks against. But I think this is a winnable game, too. I think the Bears are going to have to play a little bit better over the course of 4 quarters to go get this one, though.
Yeah, Scott, this is what we were talking before we actually started recording. We see the Bears are able to complete some of these comeback victories against teams like, the New York Giants, the Cincinnati Bengals. Collectively, both those teams are not very good at football right now.
Right, especially on defense.
But now, division play. The Minnesota Vikings are still going to be fighting for the race in the NFC North. Is that style of play that the Bears are playing right now, can that always work every week? I mean, it's been working, but it's not going to say that it will work against more competitive football teams. But what you just said, they need to clean up some things. There's obviously, you need to be better in the red zone. Like, this becomes a more...
They were terrible on 3rd and 4th down today.
Exactly. So it's like those areas, you do that against good football teams, you're not coming back like you did against the New York Giants. But the Bears can still look at this game, hopefully identify those mistakes, correct them, going on a hostile environment in Minnesota.
And for as much as the Bears are 6-3, and 6-3 is the record that everyone's highlighting, let's play devil's advocate here. They're 0-2 in the NFC North. And that cannot continue. That tide needs to turn if you want to get in the mix to be a wild card team or a division winner, which is an absolutely baffling thing for me to say. But when you're 6-3 and you're in it, right, there's a chance, right? I'm not going to stand here and say the Bears can't do anything at this point. I'm at the point where, look, we're going to be realistic in our analysis. We're realistic in the fact that they're not playing complete football but still winning games. Well, I think if they can figure it out and Ben Johnson comes through on his promise that the Bears will be playing their best football in December, why would we limit it? I don't understand that for a 6-3 ball club that finds ways to win.
Look, the Bears can't apologize who they play against.
No.
And how they win.
They didn't make the schedule.
Exactly. As long as they come away with those victories in the end, that's all that really matters, because the schedule is set way back, early on in the offseason, and if the Bears are taking care of business, you can't hold that against them. Again, you just would like to see more consistent play on, all sides of the ball, of course, but it really doesn't matter how you get the victory. If you get a victory ugly against Minnesota, you get a victory ugly against Green Bay, are people really going to be picking this apart?
No.
Maybe there'll be holes in a team that eventually will bite them at some point, but hey, the Bears are 6-3, Scott, and
right.
we can talk about that playoff kind of thing that happens at the end of the year that the Bears kind of avoided for a long time.
But I think it's safe to say that they're going to be playing meaningful football as we head towards Thanksgiving and beyond, because again, all they have to do is go 4-4 to win 10 games, and I think that's an important thing. And you know what? There may be a lopsided defeat somewhere on this schedule in the near future. That's possible. But I, with the way that the team has understood how to win, with how as well as it is coached, I don't believe that something like that can be a sign that everything's going to avalanche. Do you remember going back to week 2, 52-21, doom, gloom, is the world over? The Bears have 1,000 miles to go. Fast forward 7 games and you feel a lot different, regardless of the level of competition. I don't care about that. Did you win the game or did you not win the game? And the answer is yes.
And that's all that counts, Scott.
Yeah.
That's all that counts. They've learned so much since that week 2 embarrassing loss. Let's just call it what it was.
Terrible.
I mean, it was a blowout. But look at them now, where they're at. Like you said, they've won 6 of their last 7.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a team that I think took that loss, fueled it to being the team that they are currently right now.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this one moment turned the season around, but let's not forget that after week 2, Grady Jarrett and Jaquan Brisker held that I'm not sure if it's players only or defenders only meeting, but just saying that this is not acceptable for us. And I think that that's an understanding that even after they come out of a victory against the Giants, that they're going to look at some of that tape and say, that's not acceptable for us. And I think because the standard is high, because the coaching is good, I think that's important. One last topic that polarizes fans is Caleb Williams' ability to run. We saw it work to great effect over the course of this Giants game. But sometimes people complain that he's off schedule too much. There are times when I've said, I don't like the way he pirouettes and loses his eyes downfield. But it definitely worked in this game and has worked before. So I can lump myself in with that criticism. But the balance for Caleb Williams about finding time to stay on schedule and finding time to do what he does, that's been a discussion point all the time. I don't know what the right answer here is, Nick, but it worked to great effect here. Should he continue to play more in that way? How do you find the balance there? I don't know if there's a right answer, but it's an interesting conversation.
It might be a game-by-game basis there, Scott. There's going to be opportunities where you can hurt the defense with your legs, and you do take those chances to take off and again, use that God-given ability that he does have. But the thing about Caleb Williams is that, yes, you want him to play on time and structure and do those things, but you can't take that away from him.
No.
That's what makes him different than other quarterbacks. And you have to harness it, I think, is the big thing. Harness it and allow him to, one, play safe, try not to take any of those big time hits, but yeah, you should, if you're Ben Johnson, you kind of want to fuel that a little bit so that he can go make those extraordinary plays.
Yeah, and he can make extraordinary plays. There was a pass that was incomplete because Alameda Zacchaeus dropped it, where he rolls to his right and throws an absolute laser beam to the end zone that was dropped on a drive that resulted in a turnover in on downs, if I can say that right. That's -6 to me, right? And those are big plays, but those are also plays that he's able to make on the run. And it's about, you're right, there are times where it's staying in structure. I think he had time in the pocket. The Colston Loveland throw, like that was a great catch, kind of over the middle. Like, do you know which one I'm talking about? And Caleb talked about the developing trust between those two guys. Tight ends weren't targeted very much, but kind of as you look at this Minnesota defense, as we kind of wrap up the show here, Nick, as you look at this Minnesota defense and the front, a lot of good guys on the inside, and you look at this team overall, who would you pick to be like, if this guy has a really good game, and no quarterbacks, the Bears stand a really good chance of winning?
Man, that's a really good question there, Scott. I'm kind of, it makes me go back to the week 1 matchup because the tight ends were also used to block a lot more. I wonder now, with Colston Loveland kind of showing up more as a pass target, I wonder how much of an X factor he could be. So early look into that game, Colston Loveland's ability to not only run block, but also be a pass-catching option for Caleb Williams, I think could be big for the Week 11 matchup against the Vikings.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Montez Sweat again just because J.J. McCarthy, you want to pressure young quarterbacks, and Dennis Allen, too, if he's able to disguise. He loves to line 7-8 guys up at the line of scrimmage. So there's going to be plenty of interesting matchups to watch, and the only way to do that is to subscribe to the Watch Marquee app and read all of our stuff on MarqueeSportsNetwork.com. I'm Scott. That's Nick. Thank you so much for joining us on another edition of the Chicago Football Show.